Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Discover your divine purpose in 3 prophetic days. In the sweet embrace of the English countryside, Mary's heart danced with resolve every Sunday, her hands clasped in prayer. The small chapel stood as a beacon of hope, its stones steeped in fervent whisperings of faith. But now darkness loomed. Her son lay ill, and as she locked eyes with the flickering candlelight, despair flooded in like a heavy fog. Each unanswered prayer felt visceral, a tangible weight against her very soul. Yet this very day was different. The silver-haired pastor's voice rang through the chapel like a bell. In 3 days, know your divine purpose. His eyes were aflame with passion. Step into the wilderness of faith, cast aside your doubts, and witness the power of God. Was it true? Could unseen miracles move within the trembling air? Driven by raw urgency, Mary gathered her heart and knelt at the altar, where the scent of incense curled around her like a warm embrace. The world outside faded. There was only the gentle warmth of God's presence. She poured out her heart, tears staining the aged floorboards, calling upon the saints she held so dear. Each plea became a melody, echoed by the ancient stones, and in that quiet sanctuary, clarity danced. Perhaps divinity was preparing a path. As day turned to dusk, her spirit soared. But the second day brought shadows, mocking her newfound light. Her son's condition took a grimmer turn, and doubts drifted from the lips of those she loved. "How can you still pray when God seems silent?" they whispered, faces drawn and eyes flickering like dying embers. Each word struck like a hammer on her faith, and confusion tugged at her heart. What if the silence was, in fact, an answer? As the final day dawned, Mary woke trembling at the precipice of doubt. Memories of faithful prayers mixed with an unbearable silence, leaving her heart in turmoil. Desperation pushed her back to the sanctuary, her haven. Kneeling, she poured out her soul. "Have I been abandoned?" In that moment of agony, a shadow passed, and fear gripped her tightly. But just as despair threatened to turn her heart to stone, a deep voice called forth her son's name, loud and proud, spoken by a stranger in a serene corner of the chapel. Her heart quickened, hope surged anew. "You have a miracle within reach," the stranger said, his eyes piercing with divine light. "Whatever you seek shall be revealed." Was this divine intervention? In an instant, Mary felt warmth, a flicker of the Spirit within. Every fiber of her being ignited with fervor. The air pulsed with unseen energy. The whispers of her community faded to white noise. Here, at this moment, was her answer. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With renewed purpose, Mary felt her feet set firm on the path of unwavering faith. She now faced the bitter reality of doubt. Shadows fluttered, but the promise of faith glimmered like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. Would she embrace the weight of uncertainty? The miracle appeared near, yet questions hung like droplets ready to fall. What awaited her in God's divine plan? Just beyond the horizon, a moment of revelation brewed, one that could ultimately transform not only her son's fate, but her entire village. What miracle could unfold in a heart that dared to hope? As the sun rose, a warm golden light spilled through the chapel windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. Mary inhaled deeply, tasting the hope on the morning breeze. Today marked the end of the prophetic days, yet she felt as if this journey was just beginning. The warmth lingered on her skin, lifting her spirit. But there were still unanswered questions stirring in her heart. Stepping outside, the sounds of the village were alive. Birds chirped cheerfully, children laughed, and the distant clatter of a horse-drawn cart echoed through the narrow lanes. The world felt vibrant, yet Mary's thoughts were shadowed by her worry for her son. Each joyful sound struck a bittersweet chord within her. She clutched her rosary, her fingers running over the cool beads as she silently prayed, "Lord, show me the way." Suddenly, a gentle hand touched her shoulder, startling her. It was the stranger from the chapel. He stood quietly, eyes reflecting depth and understanding. "You seek, but do you truly believe?" he asked softly. "Faith is not only in the moments of certainty, but deeper in the silence of despair. In this stillness, clarity can blossom." Mary felt warmth spread through her, igniting the embers of her belief. The stranger continued, his voice resonating with divine assurance. "There is a call for you, dear heart, beyond what your eyes can see. Prepare yourself. Your son's fate intertwines with your willingness to trust fully." With every word, Mary sensed a shift within her. The doubts felt lighter, like leaves carried away by the autumn wind. "But how, when the weight feels so heavy?" she questioned, her heart yearning for a clearer sign. "Sometimes, dear Mary, the miracle begins in the surrender," the stranger replied, his gaze steady, unwavering, as if he could see within her soul. "Your faith has power. What you believe can prompt the heavens to respond." Feeling a spark of renewed hope, Mary closed her eyes. She envisioned her son, his laughter ringing clear. How she had longed for the days of untroubled joy. She imagined that laughter filling the air around her, drowning out the lingering fears. Finally, she opened her eyes, determination gleaming within. If surrender was the key, she would place her worries into the hands of the divine. "I will trust," she declared, her voice firm, resonating with the knowledge of a mother's heart. "I will embrace whatever the Lord has in store for us." As clarity washed over her, Mary could sense change in the spirit of the air. It felt as if the very ground beneath her feet was vibrating with anticipation. The stranger smiled gently, a hint of something ethereal dancing in his expression. "You are awakening your purpose. Your calling begins now. Follow, and you shall see." With that, the stranger turned, moving with a grace that left Mary speechless. The moment felt sacred, as if the veil between her world and the divine had thinned. In that moment of profound insight, she remembered a verse from Scripture. "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you." It pulsed through her like a beacon, urging her to act on her faith. Determined, she left the village square, returning to the chapel where her journey had reignited. She needed to seek the community that had always supported her. If a miracle was to happen, perhaps gathering together in prayer would unlock it. As night began to fall, streaming colors painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Mary prepared to summon her friends. What would they share in the space of unity? Would their collective faith rise to meet her dreams, intertwining their hopes as one? Faith had led her to this moment. And now, with newfound clarity shining in her heart, Mary stepped forward, ready to weave her narrative with the sacred threads of community and trust. But deep within resided a question. What would reveal itself when they all came together? Would they witness the miracle promised, after all? Mary's heart quickened as she walked towards the chapel, glory spilling into the evening air like a fresh breeze. Colors of dusk intertwined, painting a canvas that mirrored her emotions. Hope mingled with uncertainty. The stranger's words echoed in her mind, stirring her spirit with each step. Inside the chapel, the familiar scent of aged wood and flickering candles wrapped around her like an embrace. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself in the moment while recalling the warmth radiating from the sun. Yet this time was different. The air felt charged, like a promise waiting to unfold. Gathering her courage, Mary took a moment to light a candle, a small flickering flame symbolizing her growing hope. Beside her, the altar stood solemnly, a witness to countless prayers and whispered dreams. As she knelt in reverence, she lifted her voice towards the heavens. Lord, guide our hearts tonight. May we find strength in unity and purpose in your divine light. One by one, familiar faces began to emerge from the shadows, drawn by Mary's silent call. Friends, comrades of old, each brought with them a history of compassionate and faith. Their presence softening her heart like melting wax, layers of concern began to peel away. She invited them to join in communal prayer, longing for something greater to stir among them. As they formed a circle, hands clasped together, Mary felt a rise of energy, a connection woven by shared desires. The gentle hum of voices surrounded her, each prayer entwining with another, rising towards the heavens. She could feel the weight of worry lift, replaced by the sound of promises waiting to be fulfilled. "Tonight, we gather as one," she spoke softly, her voice steady. "Let us cast our burdens upon the Lord, trusting that He will reveal His plan to us." The congregation responded with murmurs of agreement, a chorus of faith reverberating through the sacred space. Minutes slipped away like grains of sand, each moment imbued with anticipation. Then, as if responding to their collective faith, the atmosphere shifted. A softness surrounded them, hushed whispers of divine promise infusing the air. Mary noticed eyes lighting with wonder, as if the room itself echoed with sacred energy, warm and inviting. Suddenly, a hush fell across the group when an elderly woman, Esther, her face lined with wisdom, began to speak. "There is a vision burning within my heart. I see a path illuminated by stars. It leads to hope where desolation once stood." The worshippers felt a ripple of reverence sweep through them, each hearing her words not just as prophecy, but as communion with the divine. Esther's voice rose higher, resonating with passion. "This is not just about our individual struggles, but about a community transformed. Your faith has power. Our collective belief will cascade like a waterfall of miracles." Mary shivered, the warmth of hope filling her chest. The words stirred something ancient within, a promise as old as time, echoing throughout generations. As the gathering erupted in gratitude, a sense of purpose settled upon them, binding their hearts and intentions into a tapestry of unwavering faith. "Let us not wait," Mary declared, her spirit aflame. "Let us act. We must reach out, serve those in need, and build our foundation on love." The crowd responded with nods and exclamations of encouragement, a shared determination sparking in their eyes. As they pledged to support one another and the world outside the chapel with love and kindness, something profound ignited. The night air, once heavy with uncertainty, now shimmered with hope and new beginnings. But lurking just at the edges of their collective enthusiasm was a deeper question, tugging at Mary's heart. What would be the first step on this extraordinary journey? And what revelations awaited them beyond the chapel, where the divine purpose began to unfold? The flickering candlelight reflected the determination shining in Mary's eyes. The moment felt pregnant with possibility, inviting action. She glanced at her friends, their faces illuminated in sacred light, each one a testament to shared faith. What newfound strength would dwell within them as they stepped into the world beyond those cherished chapel doors? As they began to discuss practical steps, voices echoed with both eagerness and reverence. "Let us begin with the local shelter. There are families in need," proposed Sarah, a gentle soul with a heart that beat strong for the less fortunate. Each suggestion that followed ignited excitement, sparking a shared dream resting just beneath the surface. But amidst the fervor, Mary couldn't shake the persistent question that lingered in her heart. What would be the first step? As she surveyed the gathered friends, their collective hope pooling into a river of purpose, the tension in her spirit relaxed like a spring unlocking its flow. "Let's not just talk about it," Mary urged. "We need to actually do it. What if we commit this week to be the light in our community? Little acts can lead to monumental changes." A ripple of murmurs fluttered through the group, affirming her call to action. Suddenly, a voice rose amid the excitement. It was Caleb, a quiet man who had walked beside them with unwavering faith. "But what if we come across obstacles? What if our hope is met with resistance?" His words elicited a moment of silence. Doubts lingered in the air, and for a split second, uncertainty hovered over the gathering like shadows trying to reclaim the light. But Mary felt the stirrings of the Spirit. "This is where faith shines brightest," she declared, her voice steady. "Just as Esther reminded us, our belief will transform those obstacles into opportunities." Her words weren't merely a call, they were a lifeline. They resonated within the depths of every heart present. As if on cue, the chapel dimmed around them. The warmth of their unity created a halo of light, enveloping them in divine assurance. The atmosphere thickened with a beautiful, tangible faith. "Let's begin tonight," Mary declared, her voice a vibrant flame urging them into action. "Let us share our talents. I can bake, perhaps we can prepare meals. Others could bring clothes, or simply lend an ear to those who need to be heard." One by one, the group lit with enthusiasm. Even Caleb, once hesitant, found his confidence renewed. "I could help fix things for those who've lost so much," he smiled, voicing understanding as gentle warmth filled his heart. The atmosphere was electric. Joy began to circulate among them, weaving their ideas and ambitions into a masterpiece that was coming alive. They felt called to more than a moment of prayer. They were being sent forth as ambassadors of love and service. As they shared laughter and plans for the next few days, the chapel brimmed with newfound energy, each prayer of commitment stitched into the air around them. Candles flickered higher, casting playful shadows that danced upon the walls, reminding them of the adventure that awaited. Yet, as the preparations blossomed, Mary felt a gentle nudge from her spirit. Something deeper was still in play. Would their efforts align with what the divine truly intended? What sacred encounters awaited them outside the familiar walls of their sanctuary? Lost in thought, Mary raised her eyes to the stars, beginning to pierce the night sky through chapel windows. Each spark seemed to whisper its own promise, waiting for them beyond what they envisioned. "Tomorrow's dawn holds miracles," Mary whispered almost to herself, conviction swelling in her chest. But amid the buzz of excitement, one haunting question echoed within her. What unforeseen challenges might they face? Would their light traverse even the darkest places? As they remained in a circle of fellowship, bound by declared intent, Mary recognized that the true journey was only just beginning, and soon the stars would reveal the path they hadn't yet discovered. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a new canvas splashed with the colors of hope. Mary awoke before the sun fully kissed the horizon, a bubbling excitement coursing through her veins. Today was not just another day, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. She could feel it deep within her, a holy anticipation. As she prepared for the day, Mary prayed, asking for guidance, for her heart to be open and her actions to resonate with divine purpose. The sun broke through the clouds, spilling golden light into her kitchen. She smiled and closed her eyes, breathing in the warmth like a soft embrace. "Lord, let me be a beacon of your love," she affirmed softly, her spirit at ease. The group gathered later in the morning, their faces illuminated by a blend of excitement and determination. Each brought their unique gifts, a thick, rich tapestry woven by God. Sarah had baked sweet muffins, offering sustenance both for body and spirit. Caleb arrived with his toolbox, thrilled to lend a hand. Other friends arrived too, each with arms full of clothes and essentials to share. Their first stop was the local shelter. Mary could feel her heart race as they approached, energy crackling in the air around them. "Remember, we're here to be the light," she reminded them. "Let's keep our hearts open to every need." The moment they entered, a hush fell. Families looked up, eyes filled with curiosity and tentative hope. Mary felt a twinge of uncertainty as she noticed a woman sitting alone in the corner, her shoulders hunched, head down. This was the first challenge they would face: how to reach out to a soul shrouded in despair. "Caleb, how about you and I offer to help fix some furniture?" Mary suggested, still aware of the woman. "And Sarah, would you mind sharing those muffins? A small gesture can speak volumes." The group moved into action, a choreography of service and empathy. As Caleb and Mary tended to the broken chairs, voices mingled with a warm sense of community. Laughter, gratitude, and shared stories transformed the shelter into a sanctuary. Then, to everyone's surprise, a young girl approached. Her shy smile was a spark of joy. "Can I help?" she asked, her eyes bright. Mary beamed at her, realizing that their light was already beginning to shine. Through small interactions, the atmosphere shifted. Sarah's laughter echoed as she handed out muffins, and soon the once solemn room was filled with conversation and smiles. That's when Mary felt the tug in her heart again, beckoning her toward the woman in the corner. She hesitated for a moment, but the Spirit urged her on. "Excuse me," Mary said softly, approaching the woman. "I'm here to listen if you'd like to talk." The woman looked up, her eyes misty with unshed tears. With a hesitant nod, she invited Mary into her world, a story of loss, hope, and the relentless search for solace. As they spoke, Mary realized that this encounter was more than just helping. It was divine connection in its purest form. Lost in this exchange, time slipped by unnoticed. The joy around them began to bloom, watering the seeds of trust and healing. Mary felt fulfilled, each moment affirming her purpose. How could she have known the power of listening could carry such weight? But as they began to wrap up, a storm cloud loomed. The shelter director shared more about the profound needs of their community. "We need volunteers regularly," he admitted with a heavy heart. "It feels overwhelming." Mary's brow furrowed, and she felt a wave of responsibility wash over her. She looked at her friends, uncertainty flickering in their eyes, but within her a surge of determination swelled. "This is just the beginning," she asserted. "We are called to keep spreading this light, together." The director's eyes sparked in gratitude, and Mary felt a sense of mission expand within her. What if they could build something not just for today, but for weeks to come? As they left the shelter that day, hearts and arms filled with blessings, they couldn't shake the growing sense of purpose. Mary's intuition still nudged at her, echoing unanswered questions. What would their next steps entail? How deep could the light of their love reach? Surely the divine was unfolding a plan far greater than their own imaginations could carry. For under the surface, hidden opportunities awaited to emerge, wrapping them in a glorious tapestry of service yet to be revealed. And as the sun began to sink, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Mary looked into the distance, pondering what transformations awaited them in the days to come. The following day dawned with a stillness that wrapped around Mary like a warm quilt. She awoke with a sense of urgency, a deep yearning to dive into the opportunities unfolding before her. As the sun began its ascension, casting gentle rays onto the world below, she knelt in prayer. "Lord, show me how to serve.
open my eyes to the needs around me. Her morning prayer carried the weight of determination. After breakfast, she sent a message to her friends, gathering them for a meeting.
They needed to discuss what lay ahead, and she felt an excitement bubbling underneath the surface. God was stirring something within them. "Let's meet at the park," she texted, her fingers moving quickly. "I have an idea." As they congregated under the majestic oak tree, the sun filtering through its leaves, Mary could see the flicker of hope in her friends' eyes. They were all eager, ready to make an impact together. Caleb leaned against the rough bark, his toolbox still at his side, while Sarah waved a fresh batch of muffins. Laughter laced the air, and Mary couldn't help but smile. "All right, everyone," she began with a spark in her voice. "I've been thinking, what if we start a community program? We could have meals once a week, offer clothing drives, and have a support group for those in need." The group fell silent for a moment, absorbing her words. Then excitement broke loose, like the sun after a storm. Caleb nodded enthusiastically. "I can help with logistics. We can fix up a space together." "And I can bake," Sarah chimed in with a bright cheerfulness. "Muffins, cookies, whatever it takes to bring people together." Mary's heart swelled. The teamwork here was palpable. Even the simplest ideas turned into profound possibilities. But as they mapped out plans and responsibilities, a heaviness crept into Mary's thoughts. She remembered the woman from the shelter, still sitting there alone. Was she part of the change they wanted to create? "We need to reach out to the shelter and ask how we can support them long term," Mary finally said, her face serious but filled with hope. Settled on a plan, they began discussing where they could hold their first gathering. Caleb suggested one of the local community centers, while Sarah had an idea about pulling in local businesses for donations. Each spark of creativity led to divine inspiration, weaving their dream closer to reality. It felt like a holy fire igniting within them. As they finalized their plans, laughter mingled with the warmth of ideas. Then Mary felt a stirring in her spirit again. "I know we can't do this alone," she mused aloud. "There's something bigger at work. What if we also reach out to the church community? They might want to get involved." Her friends nodded, hearts beating in sync with her vision. They prayed together, lifting their hopes and dreams to God, invoking His blessing upon their mission. Suddenly, a young man approached them. He looked tentative but curious, like he was drawn by the light of their gathering. "What are you folks doing?" he asked, his voice edged with both wonder and hope. Without hesitation, Mary smiled at him, feeling a connection stronger than ever. "We're starting a community program to help those in need. Would you like to join us?" His eyes brightened as he shared his own struggles, speaking of moments when care had felt just out of reach. A divine thread of connection tied their hearts together, a reminder of why they were there, to be vessels of love and hope. As they continued to talk, Mary felt a rush of joy. This was the beginning of something beautiful. Connections were being formed. But as dusk fell and the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Mary sensed the weight of the tasks ahead. They had so much to do, and the road stretched long before them. What challenges would they face? How would they fill the needs of the community? Mary paused, looking to the heavens, a heart full of questions. Clearly, they were on the edge of something transformative. She wondered, could this young man be the first of many who would join their movement? Their shared journey had led them here, but what awaited them down this path of service? The answers hung in the cool night air, shimmering like the stars above. The days that followed unfolded like the petals of a blooming flower, each one revealing new possibilities. Mary's heart beat strongly for the venture that had kindled among her friends and the young man, whom they learned was named Luke. His spirit brimmed with a desire to make a difference, and it ignited a fire within Mary as well. On Monday evening, they gathered at Mary's small apartment, the air thick with determination. The table was cluttered with notebooks, pens, and enthusiastic chatter filled the room. "What's next?" Caleb asked, leaning forward, eager to outline their vision. Mary sensed God's presence among them, a guide steering their collective hearts. "Let's brainstorm activities for our first gathering," she suggested. Each idea bounced around the room like vibrant colors splashed across a canvas. Sarah's idea of a community meal grew roots, and the thought of sharing laughter and joy over food gave Mary a sense of exhilaration. "And we need to create a welcoming atmosphere," Luke added, his face animated. "We want people to feel at home, to know they're not alone." A palpable silence filled the space as everyone reflected on the power of belonging. Mary felt a warmth engulfing her, a reminder of God's promise that where two or more are gathered in His name, there He is too. They devoted a moment to prayer, asking for guidance. As they prayed, a profound peace settled in the room, knitting their hearts together as one. The plan began to take shape: weekly meals at the community center, themed nights where they could share stories, and opportunities for local talent to showcase their gifts. What began as a simple idea had transformed into a tapestry woven with purpose and hope. Mary felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over her. Days turned into a week, and together they ventured out, reaching out to local businesses for support. The response was surprising. People were eager to help and contribute in any way they could. Each act of kindness felt like a divine appointment, turning what was initially a small group's dream into something much larger. But amidst the sweetness of this momentum, an undercurrent of fear crept in. Mary sensed the enemy lurking, ready to derail their mission. Doubts crowded her mind. What if they failed? What if no one showed up? She found herself retreating to her quiet corners, crying out to the Lord for reassurance. And every time she did, whispers of faith echoed back, "He who called you is faithful." As they prepared for their inaugural gathering, a mere day away, an electrifying anticipation buzzed in the air. Mary sat alone for a moment, staring up at the heavens, her spirit caught between excitement and fear. "Lord," she whispered, "give me strength to lead. Let your will be done." Her heart raced as she received a message from Luke. "The local shelter has agreed to be involved. They'll send guests to join us tomorrow." An involuntary gasp escaped her lips, transforming into a prayer of thanksgiving. This was what they had fervently hoped for, the very reason their hearts united. With the sun setting on the eve of their first gathering, Mary felt a divine surge of courage. The community was reached, the bridge of connection solidified, but she knew the challenges ahead would be formidable. Would they truly be able to make the impact they envisioned? Tomorrow would reveal itself. Hope flickered bright in her heart, but also an urgency brewed. Would God's hand guide them through uncertain waters? What would they encounter as they opened their doors to the community? Tomorrow was not just an event, it was a leap into the unknown. And with every heartbeat, Mary sensed the world tiptoeing closer to their doorstep, waiting for a moment of divine intervention. The next morning dawned with a sky brushed in hues of pink and gold, a divine canvas welcoming a day of promise. Mary woke with a mix of eagerness and apprehension, orchestrating a ragged symphony in her heart. As she moved through her morning routine, each task felt intertwined with prayer. She poured coffee into her favorite mug, reminding herself to dwell on the good and not the fears. "Today is the day," she whispered, affirming her spirit with each breath. A gentle prompt tugged at her heart, urging her to prepare not just for guests, but also to create a space where God could move freely. Mary set to work, arranging chairs in a circle, not rows, signifying community over hierarchy. Decorations blossomed from her modest stash, colorful tablecloths, twinkling fairy lights, and a centerpiece of flowers that whispered of life and hope. By early afternoon, as the sun cast gentle rays through her window, her friends began arriving. Caleb carried in bags of groceries and placed them on the kitchen counter with a triumphant smile. Sarah and Luke entered moments later, bringing laughter that filled the room like a melody. Each presence added fuel to the flame ignited in Mary's heart. "Remember, let's welcome everyone with open arms and open hearts," Mary encouraged, her voice steady, masking the nervous flutter beneath. As they prepared, a soft knock echoed at the door. Mary's pulse quickened, a first test of their vision. Luke rushed to answer. The door swung open to reveal a few smiling faces from the shelter. They stepped inside hesitantly, as if crossing the threshold into a world yet undefined. "Hello! Welcome!" Mary exclaimed, her voice ringing with joy that she hoped masked her nerves. The warmth in her tones sparked smiles, breaking the ice of uncertainty. The guests slowly removed their coats, glancing around, curiosity mingled with apprehension. Mary's heart skipped as she caught a glimpse of home forming within those walls, where even the simplest gathering could weave a fabric of belonging. "Let's start with some introductions," Luke suggested, his confidence shining through. They formed a circle, holding hands, as Mary led a simple prayer, inviting God's grace over the gathering. It was a transformative moment that bound the group together, igniting fellowship beyond superficiality. As they transitioned to the meal, laughter and chatter began to fill the room. Mary felt God's presence, tangible and real, wrapping around them like a sacred embrace. They shared stories, each tale a thread woven into an emerging tapestry of lives intertwined. But just as joy took flight, an unexpected hush fell over the room. A man, his eyes heavy with sorrow, shared his struggles. "I feel lost in a world that feels so heavy." His voice trembled, and Mary felt the weight of his pain. In that moment, Mary could sense her heart breaking open. The mission was more than food and laughter. It was about connecting soul to soul. "And that's okay," she said softly, "because you're not alone." The group shifted, surrounding him with warmth, offering encouragement born of shared experiences. Mary watched in awe as the atmosphere shifted, hearts opening like buds in spring. She realized this was what God had prepared for them, the beauty of vulnerability breathing life into community. Yet, amid this sacred scene, Mary wrestled with a lingering question. Would they sustain this spirit of connection? What would happen tomorrow when the light faded and their guests returned to their separate worlds? The gathering felt profound, but the echoes of the unknown loomed just beyond the door, holding blessings yet unspoken. With her heart at the cusp of joy and uncertainty, Mary took a deep breath, sensing the divine mystery of all they were undertaking. What was God preparing to reveal next? Would this be a life-altering turning point for them all? With every passing moment, the journey continued to unfold, resonating deeper still. The answers, like shadows long and bright, began to dance on the edges of her spirit. She felt compelled to lean in further and trust. What lay ahead awaited them in the unseen. The gathering rolled on, a beautiful blend of voices rising and falling, creating an atmosphere thick with compassion and camaraderie. Yet, even as joy rippled through the circle, Mary's heart felt like a pendulum swinging between hope and worry. She caught the gaze of the man whose burden they had tried to lift. His eyes glimmered, a mix of gratitude and sorrow, and it struck Mary how fragile their newfound fellowship truly was. Suddenly, Caleb's laughter rang out, altering the mood. "Who's up for dessert?" His voice broke through the tension like sunlight through a cloud. Mary was grateful for the shift and watched as Caleb unveiled the treats. A platter of cookies, a cake adorned with sprinkles, and bowls of fruit salad bursting with color. As the sweets were passed around, Mary leaned toward the man with the heavy heart. "Can you share more of your story?" she asked gently. There was an urgency in her spirit. She knew this was a pivotal moment. Her question hung in the air, inviting vulnerability, just as God had invited them all to share in each other's lives. He hesitated, but then nodded slowly. "I lost my job a few months ago. Things just spiraled from there." His voice cracked slightly. "Other people had been so quick to judge. It felt like I was invisible." The room fell silent again, each person sensing the weight of the words. Mary felt the knot of discomfort loosening. "You are seen here," she whispered, "and you are valued." Luke leaned in, adding, "No matter what others have said, you are part of this community now." There was a gentle power in his voice, as the room seemed to shift in that moment, a divine reconnection, a revelation blooming like spring flowers. "I feel different," the man admitted, almost sheepishly, "like I don't have to hide anymore." A wave of relief washed over him, and Mary noticed heads nodding with understanding, hearts opening wider. God is here, right now, not just in the happy times, but in our struggles too, Mary spoke softly, and something stirred in the air, a tangible warmth that brushed over them. It felt sacred. She glanced around the room as people began to share their own experiences of loss and heartache. Each story was a stepping stone, leading the way from darkness to light. As burdens were laid down, the connection deepened. The whispers of the Spirit flowed freely, embracing each soul gathered in that humble home. Mary felt the atmosphere shift, lofty and electric, with a promise of divine purpose. It was breathtaking to witness how shared wounds became pathways to healing. Yet with every revelation emerged a question. How could they sustain this understanding, this sacred bond? Tonight's connection was fragile yet beautiful, but Mary sensed it must grow roots if it were to endure. She glanced at the clock. It was getting late. As the hour waned, Mary stood, her voice steady. What if we created a space like this every week? A circle where we can always come together, share, and support one another. A murmur of excitement rippled through the group, and she felt confidence surge within. But alongside it, doubt crept in. What if they didn't follow through? What if the promise of today faded under the weight of tomorrow's mundane reality? "God is always calling us onward," Mary said, her voice unwavering. "Will we answer?" The room felt charged with a divine invitation. As her words lingered in the air, the warmth of possibility enveloped them all like a soft blanket. But before anyone could respond, a gentle knock interrupted their communion. Mary turned, heart racing. Who could it be? What new chapter was about to unfold right before them? God's surprises always arrived at the most unexpected moments. With every breath, she sensed they were on the brink of something greater. What divine path would open next? Could this moment ignite a lasting fire of fellowship? The mystery hung vibrantly in the air, leaving hearts racing and spirits eager for what God would reveal. The door creaked open, revealing a familiar face, a woman from the shelter, her anxious expression softened by determination. With a gentle smile, she stepped inside, a handful of groceries clutched tightly in her hands. "I heard laughter and warmth," she said, her voice tinged with hope. "I wanted to see for myself." Mary felt a spark ignite within her. "You are welcome here," she exclaimed, ushering her into the circle. As the woman settled in with cautious excitement, Mary glanced around the room, sensing that this gathering had become more than she had ever imagined. "Tonight is about sharing," Mary announced, feeling the weight of the moment. "It is about building something truly beautiful together. With each story, every tear shared, and every laugh that rang out, the room pulsed with transformation. As she looked into the eyes of each person, some filled with pain, others with newfound resolve, Mary recognized the depth of their journey. She praised God for intertwining their paths that evening. What if we made this more than just a weekly fellowship? What if we became a family? A wave of agreement flowed through the group. "Yes, a community center," Luke exclaimed. "A place where laughter, stories, and kindness thrive." Mary's heart soared, yet questions swirled around her. Could they sustain this momentum? What challenges might arise when the light of community met the darkness of adversity? But she clutched her faith tightly. "We don't have to have all the answers today. We have each other, and that is enough." And just like that, the weight of her worries melted, replaced by a divine optimism. A spirit of unity wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Families were birthed from shared struggles, friendships blossoming like flowers springing forth from cracks in the pavement. As discussions erupted around her, Mary took a moment to soak in the vibrant hum of life unfolding. Ideas sprouted, weekly meals, support groups, maybe classes that could teach skills to those in need. With every passing second, their enthusiasm ignited a spark within Mary's heart. God was indeed moving among them. Minutes faded into hours, and as the evening deepened, Mary took a breath, sensing the poignant moments transitioning into divine revelations. "Let's culminate our gathering with gratitude," she suggested, her voice ringing with conviction. They formed a circle, hands clasped, uniting their hearts as one. "Lord, we thank you for the light ignited here tonight," Mary prayed, her words heartfelt and sincere. "Guide us as we dream and build this community of love. May our shared journey carry us closer to you." As she spoke, the warmth surged, enveloping them like a fragrant embrace. Slowly, eyes closed, they breathed in the swelling joy and anticipation, feeling a promise unfurl before them. You could almost touch the divine. But as the sacred moment lingered, doubts clawed at Mary's heart once more. How to maintain this unity when faced with the inevitable struggles of life once the lights dimmed? Could they truly uphold the spirit of fellowship amid the world's challenges? Gathering her friends had been a necessary step, but enduring the test of time, would this bond last? Would they intertwine their spirits and nurture the fragile threads as they grew? Just when uncertainty danced on the edges of her mind, the elderly woman from the shelter, who had been so quiet earlier, softly spoke. "You are building something beautiful here. This is a seed, a beginning. Trust that God will nurture it," she said as gentle tears graced her cheeks. Her words soothed Mary's wavering spirit. "Together we will flourish," Mary vowed, her voice unwavering. "We will gather often, sharing, connecting, allowing our stories to nourish each other." A chorus of agreement washed over the room. And as they shared enthusiasm and camaraderie, Mary realized that though challenges lay ahead, the foundation they were building was anchored in love, a love that would drive them forward even through darkness. Still, one question flickered like a candle flame in her heart. What would reveal itself in their individual stories? Where would their collective power take them? As they parted, leaving the warmth of connection behind, Mary felt a quiet assurance settle deep within. What awaited them on this unfamiliar path? With hope woven into the fabric of their journey, the possibilities were limitless. And so they left that night, not just with a plan to gather again, but with a deeper understanding of what community could become. A reflection of love poured out, illuminating the world around them. As they walked out into the twilight, the stars shimmered above, each radiating a promise, a reminder that the divine purpose was only just unfolding, awaiting the brave souls who would dare to embrace the unknown. And now, dear brothers and sisters, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Join this vibrant community and stay connected to the divine journey unfolding each week. Leave a like now. Your support is a fuel for the sacred algorithm that brings these stories to those who need them most. Comment your reactions and testimonies about tonight's gathering. We want to hear how this journey has touched you. Your story matters. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends. Spread the light of faith and community far and wide. Only true servants of God understand the importance of uplifting each other. Be a part of the divine work happening in our midst.